Well, what a year 2017 was in terms of gaming. I mean, sure, the world itself is literally on fire in some places, but you know, at least the entertainment industry was fun. Like every other gaming YouTuber, it's time to rank the games I played this year. Before I begin, I want to lay out a few rules and explanations. First of all, I spent $300 on the Switch itself this year, which means I was without the funds for quite a few other games. Second, the Switch and 3DS are all I own, so when something like Cuphead doesn't show up on my list, I have nothing against the game, I just haven't got to play it because I only have those two systems, or I was even without the funds for a game on one of the two systems I own. Third, I will be including ports and remakes this year because let's face it, half the games I played were plopped onto the Switch directly from the Wii U, and without including those, this list would be about half the length as it is. Finally, this isn't a top 10, in fact I didn't even own a whole 10 games this year. This is simply ranking the games I did buy, so there are some games I went to a friend's house and played that aren't going to be here, and explaining why they're in that order to me. Two more things I just forgot. I did borrow some footage from outside sources for this video, and I'll credit the content creators via text in the bottom left corner of the video, so the only time I borrowed footage and didn't give credit is when I took footage from a trailer directly made by the creator of the game, such as the Cuphead or whatever footage you're seeing right now. Also, I have to admit, I've been having a strange issue with stuttering that kind of developed out of the blue. I tried to correct my mistakes in editing or by redoing takes, but unfortunately this is the best I could do. I don't know if I'm actually developing a stutter or if it has something to do with being stressed out more recently, but I'm going to fully caption this when I upload it to YouTube, so if you have difficulty understanding me, just turn on captions. I apologize for the inconvenience. Anyway, let's get rolling! Nintendo has a certain type of boss they like to make, where it's usually a giant floating head of some sort, and then floating hands. There are different variations of it, but overall, they really like to make this kind of design. Well, I'm pretty sure Nintendo ended up making so many concepts of those dudes that they decided to just give them bodies and stick them in their own game. That game's name? ARMS. First of all, I want to get the point across that I enjoyed all of the games I played this year. Just because something is in last place does not mean I hated it, it just means I didn't enjoy it as much as the other games I experienced this year. Normally I'm not interested in fighting games, so a punchy game has to do something very special to make my wallet succumb. ARMS fits this. It's a very interesting game, but it's pretty much what I expected out of Nintendo. It seems a bit more based around strategy than pure skill, as players are more trying to outwit their opponent into blocking so they can grab, hitting them with the right element so they can follow it up with some sort of short combo, etc. Characters in this game are amazing. I main Twintel, but my favorite personalities are Max Brass, which is essentially just Johnny Bravo, and of course Helix, who's just perfect in every way. So why is it my least favorite game of the year? Well, before I get to the main point, I have a small nitpick. Nearly every piece of music in the game is pretty much the main theme, remixed with different instruments. I like to joke that Nintendo paid a lot of money to create an amazing main theme, then just threw it at the Silver Gunner team, asked them to make it with different instruments and no jokes. That aside, it doesn't really take away from the experience. The reason I like this game the least was because of its lack of real single-player content. ARMS is incredibly fun when playing with a friend, either in culture multiplayer or online, but if your friends who have the game aren't available, well, you'd be better off playing something else. It has a Grand Prix mode, but even that isn't really a story mode. Just fight 10 characters and a boss, and that's it. All of the modes can be played in single player, but it's not nearly as fun fighting a lifeless bot as it is fighting your friends. As I said in the last segment, I'm not much into fighting games, which is also the reason this game's near the bottom of the list. The reason I picked it up? Pokemon. That's it, that's all I need. Again, because I haven't spent much time with this genre outside of Smash Bros., I don't really know what to say about how good it is as a fighting game. One of my friends claims it's just a button masher, but I don't see it that way. Then again, very well maybe, and I just don't realize that because I'm a noob at this kind of gameplay. All I can say is that I was not expecting the main breaks in, but now I am Lollyfox all the way. The reason I have this place to put ARMS is because it does provide a neat single player mode. Again, the story is pretty simplistic, but it is more than just become the champion. Slight. Single player mode actually has several levels and takes far longer to complete than Grand Prix, so I'd say it's worth it. As a port, it doesn't add much, but I feel it's worth it for the new characters and the portability. I really like this game, it's just the fact that it's a fighting game which is holding it back from being higher on the list. Does anybody not love Mario Kart? Much like fighting games, I'm not usually into racing games, but Mario Kart has always been that one exception. Probably because of the weird items, getting to put Bowser on a mini scooter, etc. The reason this is my new favorite entry is, like poking the system it's on. The ability to take a home console Mario Kart game on the go with me and play with multiple people without them having to have a console of their own has led to me playing this game with some people I would have never thought of. Last year in my government class, we would often have extra time at the end of class, so I would take out my Joy-Con, offer it to one of my table partners, and just like that, the libtard snowflake that I am was having fun with someone with a Trump sticker on the back. It just brings people together. Once again, it's lower on the list simply because I enjoyed other games more. My only complaint about this is that I did have a Wii U game with the DLC, and I got no discount on this version. That meant I had to pay a full $60 for the game on a different console with just a bit more content. I would say it's worth it for the Switch's abilities alone, but I am a bit upset Nintendo couldn't have at least given me $12 off for the DLC I bought on Wii U. Splatoon 2. I'm gonna be honest, I hated this game's main online mode when it first came out. Now that we've gotten plenty of updates, I would call this one almost on par with the original. Here's the thing, this is kind of spoiler for the next game discussed, but the game I have ranked directly above this is a port of a 2015 game, and one that I would have put the original Splatoon above. So why the heck is it a sequel lower than the next mysterious game? I'll tell you, even though I really do love this game, I'm going to spend a lot of this segment complaining, so I'm actually going to explain the bad parts before I say what I like. First of all, as I said, I didn't like the online mode at first. That's exclusively because of the maps. The first maps which came out with Splatoon 2, aside from the 2 returning maps from Splatoon 1, were all practically the same, small and square, with the exception of Pump Back Pump Track, which is small and circular. Some were worse than others, but overall they were all far too similar to one another to warrant having them all in the game. This issue has been partially fixed through the introduction of new maps, all of which are more creative and unique, but you can still end up being forced into a time slot where 2 of those first maps are the only available ones. Maybe this is a bit of extreme, but I honestly wish they would remove 1 or 2 of those original maps, just so they don't appear so frequent. Of course, there's also the problem with co-op mode being only available at certain times, but so many others have covered it that discussing it in length that here would simply be beating a dead horse. This next complaint is also just a personal opinion, but I don't like that you have to reach B- to play rank mode with your friends. I get that it's a more cutthroat mode, but still, locking it until players get lucky enough with teams they're paired with in ranked mode makes it pretty tedious. None of this affects the game as much as my biggest complaint though, story mode. And yes, I did enjoy the gameplay. If you watch my 7-hour stream, you know that, but my complaint is that little word there, story. Alright, so I know I've said some unkind things about Marie, and I clearly prefer Callie, and I still do, but that's a topic for another day. Aside from mentioning something about it in a bit, I'm going to ignore my personal bias when explaining this. Basically, as you hear this, I'm going to emulate talking to you from the view of someone who likes the Squid Sisters equally. So to recap for those of you who don't know, and don't you dare complain about spoilers, this is a 4+ month old game with a story mode my friends and I beat with multiple failures in the span of 7 hours. When Squid Sister Callie goes missing and her partner Marie hires you to do the work rescuing her because come on, she's a celebrity. How would any help this go on if both members of the beloved duo went missing? In the end, it turns out Callie is hypnotized by a pair of glasses from Octolings, and their leader, DJ Octavia, has once again kidnapped the Great Sapfish. You engage in a really fun final battle, and you save the Great Sapfish and Callie. Except you don't really. This is the problem. The news tells you that Callie is back, the Zapfish appears on the tower like the first game, and DJ Octavia appears in the single-player hub inside of a snow globe prison. But Callie does not appear anywhere outside of the final boss room. If you go to the final boss room, Callie is once again there, but this time there's an excuse that she just put the glasses back on because she thought they looked good. Obviously, this is a major oversimplification of her character and is a complete insult to all who joined Team Callie. As I said, Callie doesn't appear anywhere outside of the boss room either, so I get they might want to make it more realistic, but we're expected to believe that Octavia was able to escape the snow globe, rebuild his party thing, and steal the Great Sapfish all in the 5 seconds it took you to squid jump from his prison to the final boss room. So why can't we just pretend like he also grabbed Callie, who would be talking to Marie in the main hub area in that time? It's just ridiculous that she isn't giving anything outside of the boss room. Now there's a lot more I could say about how this is an insult to her character, but if you look up Trevor on Twitter, he's already said a lot about that, and I don't want to steal his arguments. Instead, I want to discuss why this negatively affects the fan base as a whole. I'll try to keep this rant to a minimum, but it will not be short. If you divide the Splatoon 2 player base by Squid Sisters support, it's made up of 5 groups. The Marie haters, the people who prefer Callie but like both, the people who like both equally, the people who like both but prefer Marie, and the Callie haters. As you can imagine, every single one of these groups except the Callie haters likes Callie, even those that don't like her as much as Marie. The Callie and Marie haters are the biggest problem. However, because of Marie's popularity, the Marie haters are the biggest and they're my most obnoxious and overall worst part of the fan base. Before we go on, I know I've been a Marie hater before, and I've even uploaded videos here of me hating on Marie. I'm not going to try and defend myself here, I made a mistake. The problem is I allowed the Callie haters to get to me, and I retaliated in the exact immature way they wanted me to. I stooped to their level and it was wrong. That's why I'm now trying to view the Squid Sisters as equals, like most Splatoon fans do. Anyway, because of Splatoon 2's mistreatment of Callie, the anti-happiness squad is now in power. And what happens when a hate group gets in power? Do they shut up and just be happy? No. They spread more hate, and that's exactly what's happening. They're seizing their moment to say awful things about Callie, and now the rest of us, people like both characters, not only have to deal with the fact that Callie is being treated so poorly, we also have to deal with these points. Even those of us who prefer Marie are sick of these jerks. That's not even to mention the fact that the Switch is selling way better than the Wii U, so there's a much larger player base for Splatoon 2 than the original, and a lot of fresh new faces. When these people see how Callie acts in the game, because they didn't get to meet her true self in the original, they could easily think Callie is just a typical attractive idiot character, but she's so much more. And regardless of what side you're on, even if you hate Callie, there's one bigger problem facing the community. Callie and Marie are best friends. Could you argue this isn't present well? Absolutely. In fact, I do myself. Even if it may seem that way in game, though, that information came out the mouths of Nintendo themselves. Yes, you can hate on either Squid Sister all you want, but the fact you have to accept is they're cousins, but their stage name is sisters because they have that type of bond. They're so close they feel like siblings. So what we're left with is one member who is forced into basically slavery again and again and again, another who just has to watch her best friend suffer over and over and over. It doesn't matter which side you're on, the fact is, both Squid Sisters are in pain from this. That is why Callie needs to at least appear outside the final boss room at the end of the story mode. Alright, that was the shortest version I could provide, and that was still an eternity. But I had to get it off my chest. I guess future me would decide whether or not to turn this into a 2-part video based on the actual timing. Anyway, here's what I liked. I feel the new mechanics they made are extremely useful. It provides a new area of depth with older weapons, and the new weapons are all great. I love the new co-op mode. I love what they've done with the ranked modes, and I love the returning stages and the new maps released after this initial release. Most of all, I love that it's Splatoon. This is still the gameplay we loved from the first game, now made even better. Now with an Octoling co-host, this world's lore is expanding and opening new mysteries. New genres of music such as jazz are being introduced, and we're seeing new types of stages. The world of Splatoon has always been my favorite aspect, next to the gameplay. I love learning more about the different species of this world and its culture, and I just adore every bit of lore we get. Splatoon 2 made some great changes, and some not so great ones, and it makes me excited for what the future of the series holds. Hopefully they treat their new characters with better respect from now on. Well, this video is running a bit long, so I've decided to cut it into 2 parts. Thanks for watching, and come join me in part 2 where I'll be doing the same thing but with 4 other games. See you there!